Hello, Senior 5s. Welcome to yet another lesson of Geography Paper 1. This time around, we are going to look at sea level changes. You must know the definition. You must know the difference. You also look at the difference between marine transgression and marine regulation. We shall look at the causes of sea level changes. We shall look at the features that result from sea level changes. Sea level changes, we can also call them eustatic changes or eustatism. So by definition, when we talk about sea level changes refer to a rise and fall in the sea level worldwide relative to the land. When we say relative to the land, it implies that this time around it is the water levels within the sea that are either rising or falling when the land is stable. So sea level changes refer to a rise and fall in the sea level worldwide relative to the land. A rise in the sea level is also known as positive eustatism or positive sea level change. When a rise in the sea level occurs, then there is a submergence of the coastal features. That if this is our coastline, this is water. So when there is a rise in the sea level, the water is going to cover the features here around the coast. That is why I have said that when a rise in the sea level occurs, there is submergence of coastal features, meaning that the features along the coast are going to be covered by the water. They are going to be submerged. This submergence of coastal features is what we call marine transgression. So, marine transgression refers to the submergence of coastal features. Marine transgression is brought about by a rise in the sea level, which is also known as positive eustatism or positive sea level changes. On the other hand, when a fall in the sea level is also known as negative sea level changes or negative eustatism. When a fall in the sea level occurs, there is emergence of the coastal features. It means that when the water along the coast reduces or there is a fall in the sea level, the features along the coast which had been submerged by the water are going to emerge. They are going to come out of the water. That is why I've said that a fall in the sea level leads to emergence of coastal features. This emergence of coastal features is what we call marine regulation. So if they ask you that differentiate between marine transgression and marine regulation, such a question may carry 6 marks. So we expect if a question comes that distinguish between marine transgression and marine regulation, 6 marks. Define each, show what causes each, and then the associated features. Tell us that marine transgression refers to the submergence of coastal features. What causes marine transgression? Marine transgression is caused by a rise in the sea level, which is also known as positive eustatism or positive sea level changes. Marine transgression is associated with the features like peninsulas, islands, layers, estuaries, creeks, among others. On the other hand, marine regulation refers to the emergence of coastal features. What causes it? It is caused by a fall in the sea level, also known as negative eustatism. It is associated with features like raised beaches, raised caves, raised terraces, raised cliffs, among others. It can also ask you that distinguish between positive sea level changes and negative sea level changes. It's what we call positive sea level changes and negative sea level changes. So, when we talk about positive sea level changes, these refer to a rise in the sea level. So, if they ask you that distinguish between positive sea level changes and negative sea level changes, define, show what causes each, and then the associated features. Tell us that positive sea level changes refer to a rise in the sea level. What causes that? These positive sea level changes may be caused by deglaciation, an increase in the temperature of the ocean water. They may be caused by sedimentation, among others. Positive sea level changes are associated with the features like, you mentioned the features like layers, creeks, estuaries, peninsulas, among others. On the other hand, negative sea level changes refer to a fall in the sea level. What causes? Negative sea level changes may be caused by glaciation, prolonged drought. They may be caused by a decrease in the temperature of the ocean water, among others. Negative sea level changes are associated with the features like raised beaches, raised caves, raised terraces, among others. We're going to look at later the model formation of these features. So, we have defined sea level changes. We have looked at the difference between marine transgression and marine regression. We have also looked at the difference between positive sea level changes and negative sea level changes. Then we want to move on to the causes. What causes sea level changes? What causes a rise and a fall in the sea level? One of the factors that causes sea level changes is what we call tectonism. Tectonic activities or tectonism. Tectonic activities like volcanicity result into the formation of volcanic mountains or volcanic cones within the water. And when these volcanic cones are formed below the ocean basin, they displace the water upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. That if this is the water, let's say in an ocean, then volcanic activities occur below the ocean basin and then they form a volcanic cone. This volcanic cone which is formed is going to displace the water upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. Because when this volcanic cone is formed, then it occupies the space which was occupied by the water. Where does that water go? It is displaced upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. So, tectonic activities like volcanicity or volcanic activities result into the formation of volcanic cones below the ocean basin. These volcanic cones that are formed displace the water upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. Then, still under tectonism, that sea level changes may also be caused by the movement of tectonic plates. When we talk about the movement of tectonic plates, here we look at convergence of tectonic plates and then divergence. When the convergence of tectonic plates due to the compressional forces make the seabed to contract, and when the seabed contracts, then water is displaced upwards. This is our seabed. When we have tectonic plates converging caused by the compressional forces, this ocean bed, the seabed, is going to contract, and when it contracts, it becomes small. So the water is going to be pushed upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. On the other hand, when there is divergence of tectonic plates caused by tensional forces, the seabed expands, leading to a fall in the sea level. That when there is divergence of the tectonic plates caused by tensional forces, then the seabed expands. That means that this water is going to occupy a bigger surface area. So the sea level will fall or reduce. So when there is divergence of the tectonic plates caused by the tensional forces, the seabed expands. And when the seabed expands, then there is a fall in the sea level. Still under tectonism, we talk about upwarping and downwarping. When there is uplifting of the land near the ocean or near the sea, it makes the seabed to expand. And when the seabed expands, then there is a fall in the sea level. An uplift of the land near the ocean makes the seabed to expand, leading to a fall in the sea level. However, downwarping of the land, if this land that is near this ocean basin moves downwards, it is going to exert a lot of pressure on the ocean basin, making it to contract. So downwarping of the land near the ocean makes the seabed to contract, which pushes the water upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. So under tectonism, as one of the causes of sea level changes, we expect to talk about volcanic activities that create volcanic cones. You talk about the movement of the tectonic plates in terms of tectonic plates converging due to compressional forces, and then in terms of tectonic plates diverging due to the tensional forces. Then you also talk about upwarping and downwarping of the land near the ocean or near the sea. All these are tectonic activities. All these fall under tectonism. Then another factor that causes sea level changes is glaciation and deglaciation. We know that during glaciation, water is in the form of ice. Where is this ice found? On the high mountains and then in the polar regions. I don't know whether you still recall the polar regions. These are regions which are near the poles, the North Pole and the South Pole. So, during glaciation, water is in the form of ice on high mountains and in the polar regions. So because water is in the form of ice, it therefore reduces the volume of water which is carried by the rivers and streams into the oceans and seas, which brings about a fall in the sea level. You all know that there are some rivers that originate from mountains. So if you have this as a mountain, and then here there are glaciers, there are rivers that are flowing from this mountain. So when there are so many glaciers here, that means the water is now in the form of ice. So these rivers will carry less volumes of water and pour it into the oceans, leading to a fall in the sea level. However, during deglaciation, when there is a melting of ice due to an increase in temperature, the glaciers, due to an increase in temperature, here the glaciers melt. And when the glaciers melt, the volume of water which is carried by the rivers and the streams into the oceans and seas increases, leading to a rise in the sea level. So, when you are explaining glaciation and deglaciation, tell us that during glaciation, there is a fall in the sea level. Simply because a lot of water is in the form of ice on high mountains and in the polar region, which reduces the volume of water which is carried by the rivers and streams into the oceans and the seas. However, during deglaciation, there is a rise in the sea level, simply because during hot temperatures, the ice melts, and this increases the volume of water which is carried by the rivers and the streams into the oceans and seas, leading to a rise in the sea level. Then another cause of sea level changes is change in the temperature of the ocean water. An increase in the temperature of the ocean water, either due to increased heating from the sun or due to volcanic activities below the ocean, makes the water molecules to expand. I want to tell you that water, like any other substance, when heated, it expands. So when there is an increase in the temperature of the ocean water, we must know what may cause an increase in the temperature of the ocean water. This may be due to increased heating from the sun or due to volcanic activities below the ocean. So when there is an increase in the temperature of the ocean water, the water molecules expand, and this brings about a rise in the sea level. However, when there is a decrease in the temperature of the ocean water, the water molecules contract, and as they contract, then it brings about a fall in the sea level. So as we're explaining the change in the temperature of the ocean water, you talk about an increase in the temperature of the ocean water due to increased heating or insolation from the sun, or due to volcanic activities below the ocean. You know that volcanicity is associated with heat because that magma is hot. So when the temperature of the ocean water increases, the water molecules expand and it brings about a rise in the sea level. But when there is a decrease in the temperature of the ocean water, the water molecules contract, which brings about a decrease in the sea level. Then we have heavy rainfall and prolonged drought. During periods of heavy rainfall, a lot of water is added into the oceans and seas, which brings about a rise in the sea level. I think those of you who normally go to beaches, you have seen this. Okay, you find during a rainy season when the water levels have increased. When you visit some of the landing sites, when you go to Gaba, the people that used to work near the lake shores, those that had market stalls, most of them have been displaced. Why? It is because the water levels have increased. But what is bringing this increase in the water levels? It is the heavy amounts of rainfall. So we are saying that during periods of heavy amounts of rainfall, a lot of water is added into the oceans and seas, which brings about a rise in the sea level. However, during periods of a prolonged drought, there is a high rate of evaporation that makes these water bodies to lose most of their water to the atmosphere, which brings about a fall in the sea level. Then we have um, sedimentation. How does sedimentation bring about sea level changes? Sedimentation comes from sediment. These are local particles that here we say that many rivers and streams carry, whenever these rivers and streams are flowing, they carry a lot of sediments, which may be in form of silt, which may be in form of sand, in the form of gravel, those are stones. And then these sediments are deposited into the oceans and seas. When these sediments are deposited into the oceans and the seas, they displace the water upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. Because as these sediments are deposited into the oceans and the seas, they are going to occupy the space which was initially occupied by the water. And where the water go? The water is going to be displaced upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. And you can also do this at home. You'd get a basin, put water in a basin halfway, then you get a big stone, place it in that basin, and you see what is going to happen to the water levels. Of course, the water levels in the basin are going to increase. Why? Because as you press this stone in the water, in the basin, it is going to occupy the space which was initially occupied by the water, and then the water is going to be pushed upwards, bring about a rise in the sea level. Then we have human activities. Human activities like dumping of sewage, uh, garbage, construction of artificial piers, and construction of hotels near water. All these lead to a rise in the sea level. That during the construction of these hotels near water and the artificial piers, I don't know whether you have ever seen a pier. P-I-E-R, pier. It is like a headland, but this one is man-made. We know that a headland is a projection of land into the water. So, if this is the water, they may construct something like this, made of concrete. We call it a pier. We call it a what? A pier. Artificial. We call it artificial pier because it is man-made. It is like a headland. Headland is a projection of land. A headland appears like this. If this is water, this is a headland. A projection of land into the water is what we call a headland. So during the construction of these hotels and artificial piers, many tons of hardcore stones and soils are dumped into the water, of course, to create a firm foundation. So as these soils and hardcore stones that are dumped into the water displace the water upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. I'll give you an example of Speak Resort Munyonyi, where it was constructed. When you look at Speak Resort Munyonyi, part of it was constructed in Lake Victoria. And during the construction of this Speak Resort Munyonyi, a lot of hardcore stones and soils were dumped into Lake Victoria. And of course, it affected the water levels of the lake by rising. Okay? So, human activities like dumping of sewage, garbage, construction of artificial piers and hotels, all these lead to a rise in the sea level. This is because during the construction of these artificial piers and hotels near water, many tons of hardcore stones and soils are dumped into the water. And when they are dumped into the water, they displace the water upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. Then we have what we call isostatic readjustments. Isostatic readjustments. What does it mean? Isostatic readjustments refer to a rise and fall in the land relative to the sea. This time round, it is the land which is either rising or falling. So, we must ask ourselves, what may cause the land either to fall or to rise? So, isostatic readjustments refer to a rise and fall of the land relative to the sea. That if you have if this is the land, then this is the sea. This is the land. Then this is the sea. So we have said isostatic readjustment refer to the rise and fall of the land relative to the sea. So here we need to ask ourselves, what causes the land either to rise or to be uplifted or to fall, to be downward? So denudation forces like erosion and weathering may occur and then remove the rock materials that may be resting over the land. Denudation processes like weathering and erosion may occur and then remove rock materials that may be resting over the land. So when these rock materials that may be resting over the land are removed, the pressure which these rock materials have been exerting on the land is going to reduce. And when the pressure which these rock materials have been exerting on the land reduces, then what is going to happen to the land? The land is going to rise. And when the land rises, it makes the seabed to expand, leading to a fall in the sea level. If you can recall what we have said about what isostatic readjustments are, we have said isostatic readjustments refer to a rise and fall of the land relative to the sea. This time round, it is the land which is either rising or falling. So we need to ask ourselves, what may cause the land either to rise or to fall? We have started with the land rising. What may cause the land to rise is that when the denudation processes of weathering and erosion occur, the rock materials that are resting, that may be resting over the land, are removed. And when they are removed, the pressure which these rock materials have been exerting on this land reduces. And when the pressure reduces, the land begins to rise. And when the land rises, then it makes the seabed to expand. As the seabed expands, then there is a fall in the sea level. On the other hand, when the denudation processes and erosion occur and deposit materials over the land, these materials that have been deposited over the land exert a lot of pressure on the land, causing the land to sink. The sinking of the land exerts a lot of pressure on the seabed, making it to contract. And when the seabed contracts, the water is pushed upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. So those are some of the causes of sea level changes. But remember, a question can be asked. They can ask you that explain the effects of positive sea level changes along the coast. Meaning that you're going to tell us what positive sea level changes are, what causes positive sea level changes, and then the features. This time around, you will tell us that positive sea level changes refer to a rise in the sea level. Positive sea level changes may be caused by a number of factors which include: 1. Volcanic activities below the ocean that create volcanic cones, which volcanic cones displace the water upwards, leading to a rise in the sea level. Then you talk about convergence of tectonic plates due to the compressional forces, which makes the seabed to contract, leading to a rise in the sea level. You talk about downwarping of the land near the ocean, which makes the seabed to contract, making the water to be pushed upwards, and then a rise in the sea level. Then 2, heavy amounts of rainfall. You know, we talk about now this. Heavy amounts of rainfall. This is because during periods of heavy amounts of rainfall, a lot of water is added into the oceans and seas, which leads to a rise in the sea level. Then you talk about increase. Don't say change in the temperature of the ocean water. Say increase in the temperature of the ocean water. An increase in the temperature of the ocean water, either due to increased heating from the sun or due to volcanic activities below the ocean, make the water molecules to expand, leading to a rise in the sea level or leading to positive sea level changes. Talk about sedimentation and among others. Having looked at the causes of sea level changes, then we look at the features which result from sea level changes. Because we said sea level changes refer to a rise and fall in the sea level worldwide relative to the land, it therefore implies that the features which result from sea level changes are both features of a rise in the sea level and features of a fall in the sea level. We want to start with the features of a rise in the sea level. So with the features, there are quite a number of features of a rise in sea level. These are also features that are brought about by positive sea level changes. These are also features brought about by marine regulation, features of a rise in the sea level. They may also call them features of positive sea level changes. They may also call them features of marine transgression. So they are all the same. Features of a rise in the sea level are the same as features of positive sea level changes. They are the same as features of marine transgression. So what are these features? These features, we have what we call creeks. We have what we call islands. We have what we call peninsula. we have what we call Dalmatian coast. Also known as longitudinal coast. We also have what we call Raya. Also have what we call estuary. Also what we call field. However, this one, we don't have it in East Africa. Though we don't have fields in East Africa, doesn't mean that we're not supposed to talk about them. It depends on the question which has been asked. It depends on the question which has been asked. So we're going to look at one by one. What does it mean? And then show how does the rise in the sea level result into the formation of these features. One, we have creeks. We define creeks as former sea inlets which have been submerged to form larger inlets. If you have this as the coast, this is water. Then you have these small streams which are pouring their water into this ocean. Now, when a rise in the sea level occurs, these streams are going to become submerged. And when they are submerged, you find that now they become enlarged. A stream which was passing here is now passing this side. It has formed what we call a creek. So creeks are former sea inlets which have been submerged to form larger inlets. When a rise in the sea level occurs, water floods the coastal areas, thereby submerging the small streams which are later enlarged to form creeks. Examples can be seen along the coast of Mombasa. And here we have examples like Makupa and
I'm so excited to
have
you once
Makupa
again on
and
this platform.
Mutwapa.
You recall, all of you,
Then we
those
have what we call
were with
islands.
me in the first episode. We introduced the
An
concept.
island is a piece of land surrounded by water. A piece of land surrounded by water. Some of you have relatives that stay in the islands, for example, Karangara, Devuma, Sese, and so on. So an island is a piece of land surrounded by water. So how do these islands form?
Dear senior tools, I am so excited to have you once again on this platform.
If you have this as this is the ocean, this is the coast. And here you have what we call highlands. Highlands. We have defined an island as a piece of land surrounded by water. Islands form when highlands, these ones, occur near the coast. So when a rise in the sea level occurs, this water here is going to flood the coastal area. And when water floods the coastal area, it will fill up the valleys. These valleys are going to be filled up. However, the tops of these highlands remain uncovered by the water, forming islands or islands. So, islands are formed when highlands occur near the coast. Now, when a rise in the sea level occurs, water fills up the valleys, but the tops of the highlands remain uncovered by the water, forming islands. Then we have what we call peninsula. A peninsula is a projection of land into the water or into the sea. How do they form? Peninsulas form when highlands occur at right angles to the coast. You know right angle? assuming this is our coast, this is the ocean or the sea. Now, you have highland. These are highlands that meet this coast at right angle. These are now the highlands. So, a peninsula is formed when highlands occur at right angles to the coast. So when a rise in the sea level occurs, water floods the coastal areas, and when it floods the coastal areas, it fills up the valleys. It fills up the valleys. However, these highlands remain projecting into the water to form peninsulas. So a peninsula is a projection of land into the sea or into the water. A peninsula forms where highlands occur at right angles to the coast. So when a rise in the sea level occurs, water will flood the coastal areas, making the valleys to be filled up with water, but the highlands remain projecting into the sea to form peninsulas. A good example is Entebbe Peninsula and Mweya Peninsula. It is unfortunate that COVID has not allowed us to make our study toward Western Uganda. You would have seen this Mweya Peninsula as we are going to Mweya Safari Lodge. You would have seen the Mweya Peninsula. We are going to stop here for today, and when we meet next time, we shall finish all these landforms of a rise in the sea level and those which are brought about by a fall in the sea level.